Hello guys, and this is the second episode in a row. So, as I promised, we're gonna continue on. So we're going this way. See, that's where we've been to now, to Jingyang. Oh, I didn't catch that name. Jingyang Woods or something. So right, I'm gonna continue from where I left off, and I left off on well, I basically didn't manage to finish talking about everything I needed to talk about in the last episode, so I'm going to continue here. One of the things also I was asked to discuss briefly, or I don't know, briefly or in detail, was the throwing knife builds, the builds that can utilize the throwing knives really well. And if you didn't know, throwing knives, that's the skill in a rogue mastery, and it's a skill that does a bit of piercing and loads of bleeding damage. You know, with a synergy, you can chuck several knives at the same time. Now, if I had to suggest a perfect class for this kind of build, I'd say a warlock, because a warlock is generally considered a really good class for bleeding build types, and throwing knives does mostly utilize bleeding damage. So warlock is good for bleeding. The reason I say that is because rogue mastery has a lot of, well, you need rogue mastery for throwing knives anyway, but also because it's got a lot of bleeding bonuses. But you also need a spirit mastery, because spirit mastery has a necrosis skill which reduces the enemy bleeding resistance. So you can utilize throwing knives really well with that. But here I was just checking on the side quests. We're going to be accomplishing them in this episode. But throwing knives are not only used for damage. In fact, damage is not even their best feature. The good reason to use throwing knives is to spread the effects, various damage over time effects onto the enemies. Like, you've got the envenom tree with skills like Mandrake, for example, and that is really good to spread into the enemies, because you chuck the knives, and as soon as the knives pass, they can pass through the enemies as well. And when they touch the enemies, they will obviously spread all these poison effects and Mandrake effects onto the enemies. So that's another good thing. So that's something else you might want to consider. If that's your primary use of the knives, you might want to utilize a class that has a lot of damage over time. Right, before I continue talking about the throwing knife builds, I just want to quickly say that we're now in a small cave we've entered, and it's important for one of the side quests. We have to find the Jade figurine, and the thing about this Jade figurine is that it doesn't just spawn in one place. It could spawn in any of the 2 or 3 locations in these woods. So if I'm not mistaken, sometimes it actually spawns in this cave here, like in one of the chests, but other times it can spawn in a different cave. So it's a good idea to check through every single cave. And we've almost forgotten to go downstairs there. See, it's not easy to notice these pathways. And we've just found our third Yinlo Wang's bloodletting, so we can combine it. Get a nice bonus of 50% slower attack. That's a good completion bonus actually, because that means every time you'll be hitting the enemies, you'll be slowing them down by 50%. Unless, of course, if they have resistance to it, which I don't think many enemies do. Alright, so let's continue talking about the throwing knife build. Another thing I was also asked in regard to this is that whether the blade honing bonus applied to the throwing knives, and I had to do a bit of research on that because I wasn't entirely sure, and I've actually discovered something new for myself once again, as I do, is that the kind of bonus that the blade honing does, it gives a bonus. It's slightly different wording there. It doesn't increase your piercing damage. It increases the conversion from physical to piercing damage. So instead of, for example, say if you got a weapon that deals 100 damage and 30% of it is piercing, so that means it will deal 70 physical and 30 piercing damage, right? Now, say you got a skill like blade honing, which let's say adds 50% piercing. It means it's not gonna add a piercing. Normally, when you add the piercing damage, it will actually increase the overall damage as well. But in this case, it only increases the conversion, so it will basically add extra 15 piercing, so you will be dealing 45 piercing, and the rest will be physical. So unfortunately, blade honing is not that good with, well, it doesn't add that much to the knives, because knives are already just dealing piercing, they're not dealing physical. But I think it also adds a little bit of flat piercing damage, so that, you know, that's gonna go. But it's not gonna be a whole lot. Right, I just want to quickly stop again, because this, I think, is one of the locations where that Stalker in the Woods, you know, the Stalker in the Woods side, because sometimes he appears, spawns around here, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's the thing, he too has a couple of spawning points, and I think that was one of them. And around here we've got plenty of Ichthyans. I've probably already mentioned this before, but might be worth mentioning again, that these guys, the Ichthyans in Act 3, they can drop a couple of fairly good monster rare weapons. The more common one is the Ichtyan Wampa, which is a club. The less common one is the Ichtyan Harpoon, which is a spear. And it's a pretty decent spear. It's not amazing, but it's pretty decent. And because it's a green, it means you can put a relic on it as well. Right, here we've got... This was, if you notice, they were quest related. Now you have to speak to this guy. This is another side quest here.
Why did you save me? I have no wish to live.
You have to speak to him 3 times. Because look, we've just spoken 2 times, right? And the quest not complete, but 3rd time...
I fear I may have been in error.
3rd time, it completed, and we've leveled up. It completed the side quest, and it's weird because you don't have the side quest, otherwise you only just get to it as soon as you find this guy and kill all the Ichthyans. You have to kill all of them. Right, so as we're leveling up now, I put 1 point into Storm, and the other 2 I'm gonna put into Pulverize, because it's a pretty powerful skill, and it's a passive, so it's gonna be always happening. And for the attributes, if you remember our recent gear exchange, we've lost a bit of strength, so I've put 2 points into strength, because we don't want to be getting too low on strength. Strength is what we're mostly using right now. You know, we're fighting melee a lot. Another thing, we haven't actually died yet. I'm actually quite pleased with that. I can't remember how many of my characters actually got this far without dying. I'm hoping to keep it this way. I mean, I don't know what sort of surprises will be waiting for me. Act 4 definitely has a lot in store. I mean, we might be able to get through this act without dying, but Act 4 will be very hard to get through without dying. But we'll see how it goes. It's getting more intense with every episode, I have to say. And here is the Tropical Arachnos, and if you notice, he's extremely easy. He's an extremely easy enemy. He's harder to find than he is to kill. We've accidentally picked that up. And we also got another code of Hammurabi from him, so we're going to just combine that. There, so yeah, if you notice, we've completed the quest, and the Stalker Arachnos, he's green, and he's slightly bigger than the others, and he'll be glowing, because he's a quest-related monster. That's pretty much how you can tell which one he is. Usually quest-related monsters, they have this glow to them, and their name is usually in purple. Okay. Seems on the minimap it keeps saying there's a cave down there, but yeah. Well, anyways, we've got some mantids here. These mantids, they seem to be a bit more dangerous than the Ichthyans or the raptors or any other regular enemies in this act, because they seem to be dishing out a bit of damage. It's Hail Shield. Hail Shield. That's pretty good bonus. See, remember what I said? Hail bonus is very good. So that's a pretty good bonus, although I'm not sure if it's better than the shield we've got currently. Our current shield is pretty decent. So yeah, just gonna finish these mantids off. If you remember, mantids drop rigid carapace. Right, now we've reached the rebirth fountain, and here I'm gonna mention a common mistake that could happen. Remember what I said, that the Jade figurine, it could spawn in any number of caves in this forest, and one of the caves is going to be just ahead. So one of the caves is before the rebirth fountain, one is after. And one of the things that could happen is that because there's a rebirth fountain here, it's possible that you might have, you played for a bit and you stopped here, and then you continued the next time. But on your next playthrough, the Jade figurine could spawn in a different cave, so you could actually miss it if you're not careful. For example, as you're getting to the rebirth fountain, it could spawn in the cave after it, so you don't see it. And when you start again, it could spawn in the cave before the rebirth fountain, and you continue playing without knowing there's a Jade figurine here. So you can actually miss this Jade figurine if you stop at this rebirth fountain. So if you suddenly notice it doesn't appear in any of the caves, it's probably because you missed it. So it's worth to check the previous cave again. So yeah, I'm gonna enter this cave and we're gonna kill the enemies here. If you notice there's like that exclamation mark on the minimap, that shows that's a quest item. So kill these. That's an enormous spider, I'm serious. That's probably the queen. Right. We open this chest and the only thing that pops out is a Jade figurine. So we're gonna pick it up. We're gonna exit this cave. Alright, and we're gonna portal back to the Great Wall Village. Alright. Now here, remember the merchant I told you about in the previous episode over there? So you just gotta give this Jade figurine to him. There he is.
Ah, excellent. I am good to my word.
You better be good to your word. Alright, that's the Wealthy Collect side quest completed. And he's given us some signet ring of acuity. No, that's not it. That's it. It's not too bad. Cold resistance and intelligence. We have cold resistance there already, those 30%. Yeah, we'll just keep both rings for now, just in case. But yeah, so that's the wealthy villager who you give the Jade figurine to. If he's so wealthy, why does he live in a village? I don't understand. Why does he not live in a bigger city? Maybe he doesn't like the city life. Maybe he prefers to live in a village in peace. Alright, well, the rest, we've completed 3 side quests now. We've completed a lesson in despair, which was that guy we've saved, you know, the one who wanted the Ichtians to kill him, and we obviously saved him and made him realize the value of life. We've done the Stalker in the Woods, which we found and killed that easy as cheese tropical arachnos, and the Wealthy Collector, where we've just found that Jade figurine and given to that wealthy villager. So that's 3 side quests that need to be done in this forest. So don't miss them out. And the rest of the forest doesn't have anything substantial. Hence why I'm speeding it up. Yeah, so I hope I've covered everything in regard to the side quests. And I think I've covered everything in regard to the throwing knife builds. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And if you've got any suggestions for what else for me to talk about, I always welcome them. So feel free to share any thoughts. Yeah, these tropical arachnos are extremely easy. I don't know why they're so easy. And they have this tropical arachnos mask, which isn't anything special, but it looks bloody cool. I mean, look at it. Why would they be wearing that though? I don't understand. Right. It appears we've explored the whole forest, I think. So just gonna quickly kill these enemies. It's done. Right, so we crossed this bridge here, and we'll stop around here, where in the next episode we'll get to Chang'an City. So I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.